Hey guys, welcome to Ice Hockey Aussies Power Rankings Week 4. And to get us started, we've got Jaden with pick 32.
Alrighty, so my pick 32 doesn't change from last week, so I still got Columbus.
Yeah, same here. Not a
Uh,
lot to say on that, really, is there?
yeah, no, I'm not too sure what else you could add on to that really. They're just not getting results. They beat the Flyers, which is something, I guess you can say, but they're still getting outshot every game, and I still don't like that game. And it feels like just Goudreau and their first line's really just carrying that team to try and get.
Yeah,
And
it
I
does
feel I
seem
feel
like
sorry
that's
for
all
them
they've
as
got.
Lincolns. That's all I can say for them.
He is getting hung out to dry, isn't he? And I mean, better from them this week, the win against Philly, obviously, and um, taking it to OT against New York Islanders. But you need to see more from them.
Yeah.
And the teams above them in the rankings, they sort of had similar weeks. They had a win here and there, so it's hard to move them.
Yeah, they got similar stats to Anaheim in regards to goals for against, but their power play is just horrendous. 2.7%. You need more goals, especially with the firepower they have. Anyway, on to your pick number 31.
All right, pick 31 for me is well the team you just mentioned with them, the Anaheim Ducks.
Alrighty, I have them. Yeah, just one more higher, even though it's hard to have them there, so they don't move
Yeah,
for me.
I'm interested to see who your 31 is. But yeah, I couldn't. They had to go down for me. Um, Losing to the Blackhawks today, 3-2. They outshot them. But they let go of a 2-0 lead against a team they really should be beating, and then you know they didn't even get a win this week. So it was hard to keep them ahead of um, other sides who performed better than them this week.
Yeah, I agree. I I think I've just got a little bit of bias in regards to. I think they just got a little bit of spark from players like Zegras and stuff. He scored the goal of the year that got disallowed uh, with his lacrosse goal. They do have the worst power play in the league. They have the worst penalty kill equal in the league, and they have the overall worst special teams in the league by far. 68%. The next highest is 85, which is something they could work on. But they're also just allowing too many shots. They're averaging 40 shots against, which is not sustainable. You can't do
No,
that. So
no,
I
and
can see them being at 31 or even 32 going forward.
oh, 100%. I don't think that this year is going to be the year for them. I think they've got talent. But, again, it's not really the year to be good. If you're
No.
not going to be competing, you may as well not be that good. I mean, you still want to see signs. Arizona's a prime example, showing some really good signs in a year no one thought was going to happen. But yeah, for Anaheim, I would, as a fan, if I was a fan of Anaheim, I'd just want to see them improve in the areas that we just mentioned. Their power play is shocking. Their PK is terrible. They're conceding a lot of shots, which just means you're hanging your goalie out to dry. So if they can just work on those things throughout the year, and even if they don't move up the rankings, it doesn't matter. At least you're seeing improvement.
Yeah. All right. So my 31, I have the San Jose Sharks.
Oh,
Yeah.
oi, yeah. Um, yeah. Well, I mean, they're 29th for me.
That's a big jump. um,
It's a couple of places, but I just couldn't have them that low, to be honest.
yeah. Look, they beat Dallas on a back-to-back, but I still don't like what I see from them. I think Eric Carlson's having a good year. Like, here's the thing, and I could go on a big tangent about this, but I won't. Eric Carlson, everyone's saying he's having a great year. You watch any goal, basically, where Eric Carlson's on the ice and they concede, it's because Eric Carlson. And he just positionally, defensively, has been cancer, in my opinion. And sure, he's firepower, offense, but when you're just letting people run around you all the time. I have big issues with defensemen not being able to defend, and
Yeah.
so I don't like seeing that from San Jose, and that's your big contract player. So that's why I have him at 31.
No, no, look, I get that. I understand that. I think for me, I could have had them one lower, and I was contemplating. The win against Dallas, I think, held them. I
Yeah,
found it hard to sort of push them down. Um, but yeah, for me, I just couldn't have them below Anaheim at the moment. I think Anaheim has the potential to jump above them at some
yeah,
point, but just not at the moment.
yeah. No, I agree. All right, on to you.
All right, at pick 30, they had an improved week, and I almost put them in 29 after today's, like, you got to call it brilliant win. Broke Vegas's win streak. It's the St. Louis Blues.
All right, I got them at 29.
Yeah, I figured that's where you were going to have them. I almost had them there. I was going to push them up. If San Jose hadn't have beaten Dallas, I probably would have, and I still did even with that win against Dallas. I think I want to see more consistency from St. Louis, especially after losing 8 straight. Um, but yeah, good signs from them.
Yeah, they're not scoring. 2.3 goals for is one of the lowest in the leagues. Actually, it is the lowest in the league. So they're not scoring and they're conceding. Yeah, they've got issues. They do put on a display against as you said, I believe it was Vegas, but I
Yeah,
still
they
not
beat
con- not
Vegas
con-
today.
yeah, not convinced. And look, my bottom four haven't moved, and I
No,
I expect them to go up, but yeah, I can't move them any higher until I see more. Even though they did beat Vegas already. Uh,
yeah,
20,
same here.
28 for me. I have the Vancouver Canucks.
Vancouver Canucks, love it. And yep, 28. That's where I've got them.
Yeah, I expect our mid table is going to be way off, but yeah, they moved down one for me, and I don't know what more you can say. Like they got the firepower, but it's just not firing. Um, I guess they're in the Bedard race at this point. I guess it's the season to be bad. Yeah, they beat Ottawa, they lose to Montreal, and they're back to back, and then they lose to Toronto. So they win 1 out of 3 of those Canadian games. So they don't have many bragging rights over there either.
No, I mean, look, they got the one win. Toronto's much improved at the moment, so they took it to them today. But another multi-goal lead blown. I don't have the stats on how many they've blown this year, but
I think it's
if
like
it's less than,
6 or something,
I
like
was gonna
plus.
say,
Yeah,
if it's less than 5, I would be very
yeah,
shocked. And they've got to fix that because, yeah, at the moment their best. I sent you a thing today showing you their top 5 point scorers, and they're all 3 of them are over a point a game, and 2 of them are just under, and they're you know fifth to bottom or something. Like it's just they're putting up points, but that's it.
yeah. And
Um,
Demko, for what he is, hasn't been great this season. So he's not
no,
looking like the old Demko of past seasons.
yeah,
Alrighty.
but yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. Pick 27. I've got the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, that's where I got Nashville.
Yeah, I just couldn't move them. I think they had a pretty good week this week. They lost to Seattle early, but it is Seattle. They lost to Colorado, but they took it right to them. They were in it up until the end, and then they beat the New York Rangers today, even though they got massively outshot. Um, but yeah, just I need to see more from them. I saw some good signs from them, but I'm not sure that they're going to be able to make something of this season. I do still think they'll probably be around that bottom 6 for most of the year.
Yeah. What surprises me is on the metrics that I've been looking at, they are top on everything that they should be to be doing good. It's just that it's kind of average from what I've seen. in the games. It's kind of like they're there one game and then they kind of drop off a little bit, and then that little bit of drop off is enough to cost them the game. And so I think they're going to be a tough team throughout the season, and it's only going to take a couple pieces for them to get firing back into the top 10 or so. But for now, they just need to piece that inconsistency.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not too sure that they'll move back into the top 10 or anything like that, but they definitely have a side there that can be in playoff contention.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, like bottom six for this side is probably it's way off of where they should be. And they can definitely bounce back,
yeah,
but at the moment,
yeah. Top
you need to
ten's
see more.
optimistic, but they got the team for it. That's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the thing. But and it is the West, but I don't see them doing it. But they should.
Yes.
Anyway, on to me. I believe is
Yep.
26. I have this is a big one for me. It's Ottawa Senators. I don't like having them here, but
Oh, neither do I, but I have them there as well.
where yeah, I have them dropping 2 places from last week. You have them dropping 2 as well. Yeah, it's hard. Owners are selling. They wanted basically them to be up there to increase the value. Hopefully, Deadpool goes and buys them with whatever
Yeah.
people he gets with. But on ice, they're playing great. It's good hockey. I like it, and they're in the game every game. But they're just not getting results, and that's the problem.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Like I don't understand how they are where they are. When you watch them play hockey, they look good. Their stats are fantastic. Their power play percentage 20%, 81.1% for the PK. Like they're not. Don't get me wrong. It's not top five in the league
Oh,
in
it's
in
it's
both
over
those
100.
things.
Yeah,
Exactly, but like it's good. If you've got a 20% on the power play, that's good. That's solid. That's what you want. 81% plus or 80% plus on the PK, where you want it. So they're where they want it on those two things, but they just seem to be allowing too many shots against on their goaltender, and that's what's happening because they're scoring well, they're winning face-offs, but they're just letting in too many shots. So they've got they've got the talent, they've got the speed, but I said this to you during the week. They remind me of the New Jersey Devils last year and probably the year before, where they could score goals and they could look really talented doing it, really fast paced, energetic, but their defense just let them down time and time again with errors, or they just didn't get the goaltending they
yeah. I
need.
don't think they're getting the timely
Um,
saves they need,
exactly.
which is unfortunate for them. Alrighty, on to the next one. Number 25.
Yeah. Pick 25. Their their results are better than this, but I just don't like how they're playing, and I think we should start to see them fall. I've got the Chicago Blackhawks.
Right, I thought I was gonna have them too low, but I got Chicago there as well. Uh,
Oh wow.
which is different to where they are in the standings for both of us. They're sitting 21 at the moment, which isn't too much higher with games in hands. But yeah, you can have a talk.
Yeah, I've said it, you know, pretty much every week talking about them. I don't like how they're playing. They're turning the puck over regularly. Um, I don't think it's sustainable what they're doing. Um, I don't think that I think this is where they will be. I think their standing position at the moment is a bit flattering, even though it's not too much higher, and they are starting to fall. But I think once they start to come up against those big runs of difficult teams, like top 10 teams in the league, we'll start seeing them go on bigger losing streaks and really start falling down those standings. Um, they're conceding a ridiculous amount of shots, which is yeah, it's just not sustainable when you're minus 8.4 in the shot category. It means you're not putting enough shots on the net, and
Mm.
you're allowing too many shots on your goalie, and eventually your goalie is not going to be able to stand on his head every game and
Yeah.
drag you in a point.
The positive thing for them, I don't think it's sustainable. But they're number one in the league in faceoffs, and faceoffs are
Hmm.
very very underrated. In the O zone or the D zone, it can save you a goal or give you a cheap goal here and there. So being number one, I think that's probably a stat that is in line of why they are in the standings compared to
Yeah,
how they've been playing.
probably is true. They're getting possession, um, first use possession every time
Yeah,
there's a face off, which is probably helping them out. And especially like you just mentioned, that O zone, when you're in your offensive zone and you win the face off, you're tying people in there, especially if there's an icing and you get that ozone win. The skaters are already tired. You get the ozone win. You get to hold them in there for a bit longer.
yeah.
Get some shots on net. Um, but yeah, I think 25 is. I think they might even slip further. But at the moment, I just don't like how they're playing.
Alrighty. My 24. So my 24. I love this team. Underdog team. It's the Arizona Coyotes.
Oh,
Uh,
I didn't. I knew who you were talking
oh
about,
yeah, as soon as I said
and
I love this team.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I've, they're just playing real good hockey, real team effort hockey. They don't have the talent, like the high end skill, but like they still got players like Clayton Keller did an amazing goal today on the PP. Their PP is absolutely amazing, and by that I mean the power play. um,
yeah.
yeah, their power play is amazing. It showed up today again against the Devils, who have had a good PK, and I think that's a contribution into why they are stealing games, along with their goaltender every now and then standing on their head. Can't praise them enough. I love it. I could see them going higher with this type of play if they can keep scraping wins.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, their power play is phenomenal at the moment. It is 100% one of the big reasons they are pulling wins against teams, as well as a pretty solid penalty kill as well. Um, but they're just grinding. We said it today when we were speaking. They just play a real solid, nothing fancy sort of game style. It's just get the puck up and back, up
It's
and down the
basic
ice.
hockey, like 101
It
hockey.
is.
Yeah,
It is. Let's not try anything that's gonna get the team on a breakaway. Let's not try anything stupid. Let's just try and play simple hockey, get pucks to the net, and do you know what? It probably will unravel eventually, and I still think they're gonna finish probably bottom five. But what we're seeing at the moment is fantastic for the team, fantastic for the fan base as well. In a year where they were expected to just fall apart, we're seeing some real positive signs here. We're seeing a lot of their youngsters come through really well. Um, and for their sakes, I hope that they keep it up for a little bit,
mm.
then really fall down the standings and win the draft lotto for Bedard. Because I think someone like Bedard in Arizona, yep, a lot of people might be like, he's probably going to ask to leave, after a few years. But I think someone like him with the new stadium coming, he could really turn that franchise around with some of the other young talent that they've
Yeah,
got
lining
there.
lining him
And
alongside Keller, and there you go. There's your first line.
oh, exactly, like it would put some real excitement in the Arizona
Yeah,
um
I
sort of
hope they get
franchise.
it. One point I wanted to add: they have um, the fourth best special teams in the league. They're over 110, which is normally elite. So it says a lot about how they're working, not only on 5 in their game style, but they've got some good special teams running. Um,
Yeah, 100%.
Onto your 23.
Onto my 23. These guys moved up a little bit. And they bounced back after that big drop and that losing streak, but it's the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got them at 23 as well. See, this is where I
Ah,
thought we'd start differentiating at this point onwards. We probably will,
yeah.
but yeah.
I think there will be some sort of movement. This week was very difficult with some of the results that just didn't go how I thought they would. But yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh had a good week. Was it a great week? No. Um, but they beat Washington, they beat Toronto, and then they lose in OT against Montreal today. So good. Could have been better if they had beaten Montreal today. They got massively outshot in the game against Montreal today, and they got outshot against Toronto, which is a real concern. But 5 points out of the 6 possible that they could have grabbed.
Yeah, well, they could be on their
Yeah,
bounce back, but you look at a lot of their stats; they're just all slightly below average. But they're
yeah,
conceding too many shots and too many goals, and that's been my gripe with them since the start. And it seems to be continuing, but they're kind of leveling it out. But I would like to see some consistency with that.
yeah,
Or
exactly.
already, 22. This is an interesting one. I believe they dropped down a fair bit again for me, but I got the Calgary Flames here. This is a big one.
Oh, yep. I reckon that's where I had them up until today's win. They moved up another spot for me. But yeah,
Yeah,
21 for myself.
yeah. I thought it would could be a little bit rough on where I had them, but it's just not been going great. They're just sitting at 500. Sure, they get the win today, but I don't think it was a big win. Like it's against Winnipeg. It might change their season. I know they needed it, but I'm just not convinced on their game style and their plan at the moment. I need to see them rack a couple wins together to see that come back together.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I agree. I thought they didn't play poorly throughout the week. I thought they, really pushed the Islanders. They really pushed the Devils. They were probably the better team in that game. Um, and they lost to Boston, but only just. And Boston, obviously, pretty much the best team in the league at the moment, arguably with Vegas and probably the Devils. But
Yeah,
yeah, I need to see them win. I
yeah,
know I've said a lot.
yeah.
It's
They're
not
playing
always
good, but they're
results.
not winning. That's the thing. It's kind of like an
Exactly.
Ottawa in. I need to see
Yeah.
results as well as playing good because New Jersey, like from our experience the last few years, they will play good and then they won't get the
But they'll
result.
lose.
And yeah, so that from experience, that's where this type of team ends up in the if they keep this same system going.
Exactly. Exactly.
Already.
All right, let's move on. At number 22, I've got the Washington Capitals.
Ooh, where did I have them? I have them at 21.
Oh,
So
so just
yeah,
swapped over.
just swapped around.
Um, yeah, look, I felt it was a bit rude to sort of have them drop a position. I didn't think they had a bad week. They smacked Tampa Bay Lightning 5-1. They lost to Pittsburgh 4-1, and they beat the Edmonton Oilers 5-4. So they actually had a pretty reasonable week,
Yep.
but I felt like a few teams around them were better. Um,
Well, that was basically it for me as well. It's like they had a good week, but I think other teams around them on their weeks and how they're performing has just been slightly better. So it's not a diss on Washington for going down a spot. It's just you know what the other teams around them are doing, and the midfield at the moment is super close. So it's hard for them to drop,
exactly.
but once they get their full roster back together, I think they'll go on a rally. But till then, I gotta have them at 21.
Agree.
Alrighty,
All right.
number 20 for me, I have a team that should be higher, but I got the Minnesota Wild.
Oh, yep. I agree with that statement. They should be higher. I do have them a little bit higher, but not much. They should still be higher than where I've got them.
19. Yeah, so I had them 19 last week. They dropped down one for me. It's not one. It's not really on them. It's in regards to the teams that are playing around them. They got the win against Seattle. It was a tough, hard win, and honestly, I watched a lot of that game. It it was honestly on a what do you call it? Coin flip basically on if they were going to get
Yeah,
that or not. It was Seattle came firing back. They held on. It wasn't a pretty win though, but they get it.
yeah.
What we'll say in regards to them, they had a 1-0-1 loss against LA, then they get a 1-0 win against the Kraken. So it doesn't seem like they had playing a free flowing hockey. And for what I saw against the Kraken, it's not really been looking like that. So yeah, I couldn't move them up personally, even though they did get the win over Kraken.
No, I agree with you. I'm expecting them to do so much more than they are, and I don't know if we're just going to be let down, and this is actually where they are,
Yeah.
as a team, or yeah, what the goal is, whether they'll start firing at some point. But they've definitely got the team to be a lot better than where they are. Um, we're just not seeing a lot of consistency from them. But other than that, we'll move on. At pick 20, I have the Montreal Canadiens.
All right, they're my 19.
Just swapping.
Yeah, just swapping. They go up 3 positions for me. It's the reason why that Wild went down for me. I can see they went up two for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I had them move a couple of spots. I thought they had a really good week. I think they got the all three wins. Um yeah, all three. They won all three this week. They beat Detroit in a shootout, they beat Vancouver, and they beat Pittsburgh today in overtime. Um I feel like they're pulling some things together, but again, they're very inconsistent. I think last week, um, they might have even lost all three games that they played last week, and then they come in this week and they win all three. So it's a bit of an up and down season for them. I expect that's what we'll probably see. Um, yeah, they did. They lost all three games last week. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, so bit of an inconsistent year for Montreal. So I feel like that they'll probably fluctuate around this area because of that as well. But some good signs from a lot of their youngsters. Kirby Dack's looking all right. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield. Um, I think they're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, look, their first line fires. I just got issues with their depth at the moment, and I think that's where they're having issues. And honestly, you covered every other point. They're just conceding more goals than they're giving, but it's high scoring games. But I got to see more. I don't think that I will see more from them. I think this is where they'll be for the rest of the season. But hopefully, I'm wrong for them in their case.
Yeah, agreed.
Alrighty, where are we up to? We're up to 18. So 18 for me, a team that should not be this far down. I got the New York Rangers.
Oh, I knew it when you said that you shouldn't have them this far down. I was like, it's New York, and I have them there as well.
Yeah, it feels weird. Because I don't think they've
It
been
does.
playing horrible hockey. It's just not there. It's kind of one night they'll show up, they'll play amazing, the game that you expect them to play, then the next night they won't be completely there. And so I'm not too sure what's the issue there with the consistency. Because honestly, a team like that shouldn't be having those consistency issues. And stats wise, they are off the charts, like not off the charts, but positive in everything. Uh, +7 shots differential. They got scoring more than they're conceding, over 100% in the special teams. So, even plus in the face-offs with 51.5%. So it's just inconsistency in that ice that must be conceding it for me.
Yeah, 100%. Like, look, I- look, anyone in the Metro at the moment is probably loving seeing the Rangers struggle and go up and down, right? But for the team that they've got, you've just got to look at it and go, "Ah, you shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be there. You should be top five, realistically. Um, they got a little bit worse from last year, but they still got a very good team. And they should be minimum top 10. And to be 18th, I think, yeah, it's just when's it going to click for them, and when are they going to get that consistent roll on?
Yeah. Where the team I saw was the Detroit game. And I'm not even sure if it was New York outplaying Detroit that spectacularly. It was just Detroit failed. Like a third
Yeah.
period, just disaster, and
Well,
it was just a
that's it, right?
disaster. And I think that's more in
Six
Detroit
goals.
than Rangers. So I want to see that effort from the Rangers consistently, which I'm not seeing. But
Yeah, you don't just want to see one period, right?
yeah,
Because
just show
it,
up for
it
one
was two
period.
all. It was 2-2 up until that point, and then they scored 6 goals in the last period to go
Yeah.
bang, bang, bang. So yeah, definitely need a bit more consistency. But on to pick 17. Team that, yeah, Rangers sort of had an up and down week against the Detroit Red Wings.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Um, I could have them lower. I actually have them at 13 at the moment.
wow,
I
that's the first real big
That's the real big
difference.
difference. And I honestly I can see why you have them that far down just because of that New York Rangers third period.
Well, I also like looking at it. Last week you had them at 12. They've dropped one for you. Last week I had them at 15. They've dropped two for me. So I feel like where we've sort of dropped on them a little bit, we've probably had the same thoughts this week on how they've been. Um, but yeah, I mean, most of these teams in the middle, they could jump from 10th to 20th.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I 100% agree.
but yeah, Detroit, I think it's same thing with Montreal. As what we said with Montreal, they're just inconsistent. They beat the New York Rangers 3-2 in overtime. They lose to Montreal in shootout. Then they get absolutely destroyed by the Rangers, and then they lose today to the LA Kings. Great comeback from them today.
Yeah.
They really did sort of put it in, but you just can't let teams get 4-1 up and expect to win the game.
Yeah, well, look, they're on a 3-game lose streak. They've lost to the Canadians, Rangers, and LA. They beat the Rangers before that. It's inconsistent. I probably see them going lower if they continue that inconsistency, but I do think they have that power to stay at 13. So I've got them there for now, but we'll see next week.
Yeah, I look, I think they could finish the season anywhere, probably from that where you've got them at 13 to even as low as 23. I think it just depends on whether they can be with that inconsistency, whether it's they're a little bit better
Yeah,
than they are worse, right? Like, just depends which way it goes. Like, how's the inconsistency when they have a win streak? Will they have a 5 win streak and then a 3 lose streak
yeah,
or four
exactly.
lose streak? Like, I think that's what's going to determine it. But I think honestly, a year for Detroit, as long as they're competing and they're in contention for a wild card spot, I think it's a positive for them. So yeah, we'll see where they go.
Yeah. All right. Pick for me. Moving down 2 positions, I got the Philadelphia Flyers at number 17.
Number 17. Oof. Yeah, I've only got them one spot higher. I've got them at number 16.
Got them in the playoffs. How dare you? Yeah. it's it's interesting the Flyers, that story that keeps on going. They beat St. Louis, but it's St. Louis. I can't believe I'm saying that about St. Louis, but it's St. Louis.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then they lose to Columbus, which is
Which
it
it's
is a big
Columbus.
it's a big loss. It's Columbus, and then they lose to Ottawa, which uh, it's hard to say what that type of loss is in regards to because it's Ottawa. So they're
Yeah,
in that yo-yo position. 16, 7, like probably ranging from 15 to 18. They're kind of just yo-yoing in that spot, and they may stay there. I don't know how long they can keep that going with the system Trotz is pulling, but yeah,
yeah. Look, I think they'll fall off, but for now, they're winning one, losing a couple, winning a couple, losing one. Carter Hart's playing really, really well. But again, we've spoken about it. How long can he keep that up when they're conceding as many shots as they do?
yeah.
Um,
Well, he's
oh,
probably
look,
in the
we'll see
Vesna
how they are.
considerations at the time being, 'cause it's early in the season,
Yeah,
but he's probably
yeah,
one of the ones leading it.
yeah. I mean, I they probably need him in the top three considerations by the end of the season to even make playoffs.
Yeah,
Um, look, I just don't think that'll happen. I think it'll fall apart. Um, but at least they might be able to sustain it for another few weeks, even maybe to Christmas, but I think it will fall apart eventually. But yeah, moving on to pick 15, I've got team which I don't really like their game style, but they're fourth in the standings, and you've got to they've got to be doing something right. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's the LA Kings.
I've got them higher than you. I've got them at
Yeah.
11. I
Oh,
don't I don't like their game style. The plus 10 for me, plus 5 for you. Big jump for me. I have to credit the standings. I don't like their game style. I don't like some of their players just in general. And I know that they've kind of been feeding off the lower end teams this week in regards to, Minnesota, Chicago and Detroit were their games. Like they're all below them in the standings and on my power rankings. So it's hard to gauge how good that is. But they have had the busiest schedule, and they're still four. I would say it's around 11, probably even going towards your 15 at the moment, even though there are four in the standings.
yeah. Yeah, I think, one of the things to remember in the standings as well, though, is they've played 17 games.
Yes, exactly.
And again, the credit is being given moving them up quite significantly, especially yours up those 10. I've moved them into the top 16 because they are getting those results. But again, if every team was on 17 games played right now, you'd probably say Carolina's ahead of them, New York Islanders potentially ahead of them, um, Colorado, Winnipeg, Dallas, probably all ahead of them. Um,
Yeah,
so I think, yeah, like if everyone's on the same amount of games played, they're probably around in the standings. They're probably around where you've got them.
yeah,
Um, and I just think with the way they're playing, their power special teams is terrible at the moment. Not getting it done on either end really, and yeah, just
yeah,
conceding a lot of goals.
yeah. Conceding more
So
than
I
the
don't.
scoring, only 13% on the power play. Uh, they are getting more shots on, and they are expected to get a couple more goals than what they are getting, and they do have a good enough 52.7 face off, but yeah, it's just not a good game style. I don't think it's consistent game style either. But yeah,
Yeah, look, I
it's
I
so
think that they could definitely make playoffs.
oh yeah, especially in the West. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, being in the conference division they're in, they can 100% make playoffs. I just don't really think that they're going to be a dangerous team in the
yeah.
playoffs. Um,
Number 16 for me. Just so this is the playoffs. I have the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Tampa Bay Lightning,
They moved
love
down
it.
6 for me.
Ooh, yeah. Look, I've got them at 11.
It's
I just couldn't.
swapping
I
LA
couldn't
and
drop them.
Tampa.
Yeah, I just couldn't drop them to be honest. Um, I know they didn't have the best week, but they also only played 2 games, I think.
Yeah, but that's my issue. You play 2 games, you're getting a big break in between your games. You should be fresh and firing for those games, and they come and lose against Edmonton. Sure, they outshoot them, and it was a close game, but then you go and lose to Washington, and you lose 5-1, and you have a two-day break in between, and Washington only had one. It says a lot about their consistency this season, and we've said that a lot for this mid-table. It's just consistency, and it's probably just because how competitive the league is, how balanced it is, maybe. But yeah, I have them at 16 at the moment. I had them dropping. They lost two, not too many games, but yeah,
Yeah, no, look, honestly, I, I can see that a lot of this mid-table, I feel you could make reasons for anyone to be in the top 16. You can make reasons for, you know, um, Philly to drop out of the top 16, Detroit to be in there over Philly. Kings to go up higher, Tampa Bay to drop down lower. The Rangers, were we too harsh on them? Should they have been in the top 16?
Yeah,
Yeah, even the teams to come, there's probably arguments to be made for why they should be higher or even or lower. Could go either way. It's just so even through that middle section at the moment.
yeah. Well, it's interesting
Um,
that all their stats, like power play, goals, for and against, it's all kind of mirroring what LA have, and but they just got worse shot differential and worse face-off ratio, so they're kind of in line with where LA are at the moment. So they're plus 4, 5 positions in between. It kind of seems like they're in the right spot then.
yeah. All right, moving on to number 14. I still think these guys have faced some really, really tough opponents over the last 2 weeks, and I feel for them a little bit, but at the end of the day, you've got to get results at least against a couple of them. I know it's a tough draw, but it's the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, I thought that's who you're talking about. I got them at 15, I believe. Yes, I do.
Ooh, dropped a little bit lower than me. Um,
Yeah, like I drop 8 positions, you drop 8 positions. It's exactly what you just said. Like you get a tough draw, but to be in the top 10, you got to take points from that tough draw. And,
exactly.
so yeah, that's really where I'm at. I'm still liking the game. I still think they're firing. They got Tage Thompson, who just came out of nowhere, but it's just you got to get the result, and they're playing good. So they just got to keep that consistency of playing good.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't drop them too far last week because, their two losses were Carolina and Tampa Bay. And you're like, two really good sides. They took it right to them. It was empty net goals that finished it off in both games. But then they started off this week with a 4-1 loss to Arizona. Credit to Arizona, they've been on an absolute tear. Um, and then lose 7-4 to Vegas. It was a bit of a shootout basically. It was who
Yeah,
could shoot more goals, and I think for Buffalo, that's just not a team you want to do that against.
yeah, and letting
And
Eichel
then
get the hat trick, that's
yeah, that was just
that,
rubbing salt in the
that
wound.
yeah, it was definitely celebrating it. The fans were booing him every time he got the puck, and every time he got it, he over celebrated. But when your fans treat you like that, then I from what I was reading, he felt mistreated last year when he rocked up. How the fans treated him. So I understand, if you're getting that salty relationship between the parties, then yeah,
We've said it before. It was toxic. They needed a change, and now everyone just needs to move on. He's at Vegas. Buffalo got a pretty good return for him. Buffalo are in a better position now. Vegas are in a really good position this year. So just separate. Who cares? Get
yeah,
over it. Move
it's
on.
a healthy breakup.
Um,
It was a healthy breakup,
exactly.
even though if it looked ugly. Uh,
Exactly.
Alrighty. Number 14 for me, I have the Florida Panthers.
Ooh, yeah, cool. Um, I've got them at 13.
13, so just one off. +3, +4. Yeah, I think it's the same talking points really. It's just that being that consistency. They got that shutout win against Carolina, which was good, but then they go and lose to Edmonton, and it is Edmonton, but they outshoot him and they gave it to him. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. That I feel like they should be higher than where they are. I feel like Kachuk should have had been out suspended for 20 games for what he did to the goalie. I think
Yeah.
honestly, I would almost argue banned because it's not hockey at that point. That is just literally endangering someone's health.
Yeah, it's not a
And,
good look.
and only getting 2 games
And
for that really pissed me off. And it sets a standard for the league, which I don't
oh,
like.
it
So,
was terrible, and they really didn't do the right thing there because if he gets 2 weeks, how does someone like Slavkovsky get 2 weeks for his thing? And Slavkovsky was bad, and he probably he deserved the 2 weeks, but when he gets 2 weeks and someone like Kachuk, who has just eye gouged a goalie on purpose,
Yeah.
and literally, if he connects wrong,
Oh,
he could take his eye out
you
and
go
end his career.
blind easily end a career, but honestly, ruin his life. Like
What
it's a big
exactly?
life changing injury, and
And
I,
to get 2 games,
I can't see minimum 20. Honestly, I personally, if I saw that, I would ban the person for life. We're Australians. I've seen less done in AFL, and that people get the ban of playing the sport. So yeah, it disgusts me. Um,
yeah,
and
I
I know it's not
I
talking
know
about
they're never gonna.
Florida, but if he gets a bigger ban, they're going to get weaker through the season. So I think it's a big talking point on where Florida end up in the season, just because of him not getting a ban. Like I think he should have, like of the penalty he should have got.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think, they're never going to do a permanent ban because of it, unless it's something stupidly. Like, if he did actually connect and take his eye,
That's the thing though. If the injury happened, they do it.
oh,
But
yeah,
if it's it didn't really hurt him,
yeah,
he's not even gonna go out or something like that. It's like, nah, we won't do it. But it's the same crime. It's the same crime.
it is. It is.
Um,
And we've had this argument across a lot of sports. But, yeah, like, I I would probably never have expected a permanent ban,
oh no,
but
I'm not expecting it.
10
That's what I would
10
have done.
weeks at least.
Mhm.
You're 20. I probably agree with on that because it's like, mate, no, we're stamping this out. You cannot do that. Yeah, okay. A lot of people might be like, "Boy, that's a big punishment," but no, you need to stamp this sort of shit out, and you're only going to do it by punishing. What's stopping Kachuk from doing it again? He
Oh,
copped a 2 game ban. Like,
and he
oh,
has a history. That's the other thing. He has a history.
exactly. Yeah,
It's not a like a golden child accidentally doing it or doing it. It's someone with a history.
exactly. But
Alright.
we could talk on this all
Oh
day.
no,
So
I could ramble
let's.
on forever. It's
Yeah,
alright. Uh,
let's move it on.
your pick.
It's mine at number 12. Um, at number 12, I've got the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, okay. I actually have them in my top 10. No, number
Oh,
10.
big.
Plus
I'm
8 for
kind of
me.
wondering. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering who's your 12 now. Look, I think they're having. It's not just this week. I think they've been building. We had to move up a few spots last week, and then again this week. But they had some really good games. Carolina Hurricanes. They got the win. They lost in OT to Vegas, and they outshot Vegas.
Yeah,
Um,
they took it to Vegas. They should have won that game really.
yeah,
And
they
then
lost to Pittsburgh,
and
which
and the
but
game they should have won.
Pittsburgh are
It's kind
good.
of the motto with Toronto. Should have won, could have won, didn't win. Um,
Didn't win. Yeah, yeah, and then had the good comeback today. So I think they're 4 wins in their last six. They've gotten wins against Boston, Carolina, and Vegas Golden Knights, who you could really argue that Boston and Vegas are probably the two best teams in the league, and Carolina are probably fourth or fifth best in the league.
yeah,
They're top five
yeah,
at the moment. So yeah, like oh sorry, yeah, 2 wins. They got the 2 wins and then lost in OT to Vegas. But
yeah. So
um, you
so they
know,
get five. Was it
of a
five?
possible six.
Yeah. So it's a
Yeah.
good haul. I will say about them, I do like their stats also in regards to their scoring more than conceding. They're plus over 100 on their special teams, winning the faceoffs, outshooting their opponents. It's just the consistency on ice. They lack defensively. I've already talked about Hull and how he's looked defensively for me. Um, but the only issue is for the firepower that they have, and they're scoring under 3 goals at 2.81 per game. That's
Yeah.
not good enough. With that, you've got that much money locked up in your forward line. They need to be like 3.4, 3.5 easy. So
Yeah. Yeah. And we've spoken about it before, where their defense gets away with being so poor because of that offensive power. And talking about it, they've only scored this season. they have only scored more than 3 goals twice.
Yeah, yeah, that's horrendous for a team with that much cap at the front line,
Exactly.
and
They've
yeah,
only managed,
and a
yeah,
guy that scored 60 the past season. So
exactly.
he has started firing again, but yeah,
Yeah, and I think they will continue to climb and they're going to be in the playoffs. That's probably a given. But yeah, there is a little bit of concern there with that.
yeah.
But anyway,
All right,
we
my
move
number
on.
12. This is going to be a big one. You won't agree, probably. I have moving now 6 positions. Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, look, I they're number 9 for me. Um, I contemplated moving. It's not that I don't agree with it. I contemplated moving them down. Actually contemplate moving them out of the top 10. But I sort of looked at today's win and yeah, I just sort of went, oh, they got the job done against Florida, good side. They lost against Carolina. They
Yeah,
beat Tampa Bay. They've had an up and down week, which just makes it hard to sort of drop them any further
yeah. Well,
for me.
it's just like you look at the standings though. They got what, one more point than Florida, who has a game in hand. And where do we have Florida?
Yeah,
it, it- it's
14.
it's kind of like that thing, and that's looking at the standings, looking at how they're playing. It I just don't like that counter-attacking hockey with the firepower that they have. I still don't think there will be anything with that much cap locked up on certain players, and it's is it Nurse, I believe, has just looked ordinary on that team for that type of cap hit, and
Yep.
I don't like that. You gotta get something out of that, and that's where their defensive boys are coming from. They're not getting that defensive contribution for the people getting paid the big bucks.
Yeah, I do. I definitely do think it's a concern. What we're seeing from Edmonton, game in, game out, where one game they'll just come out firing, the next game they'll get absolutely walloped like they did against Carolina.
Yeah,
Um, it's hard to really know what's going to happen with them because they're just one of those teams that they can go on a roll, win 8 games in a row because McDavid and Draisaitl scored. Um,
yeah. Well, well,
20, 24 points in those 8 games.
well. You look at it like what they're the second best high scoring team in the league, but they're also the fifth highest in conceding goals,
Yeah,
and that kind of just sums up Edmonton all up there right there.
and they just leak shots like no tomorrow.
Mm.
35 shots against a game. Yeah, you can't win games with that sort of shots against per game. It's just not a winning formula.
Alrighty.
So,
Top 10 for you.
all right, start off my top 10. Um, Look, I contemplated moving these guys up, but I think the lack of games this week and the way they sort of 50-50'd it, I couldn't do too much more with them, but I've got the Seattle Kraken.
All right. I've got them moving up just a couple positions to P9. Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, it was the lack of matches they played this week for me. They obviously had that grind against Minnesota, which they lost, got shut out, and then the big win against Nashville 5-1. So, it wasn't a bad week for them. They did what they needed to do against Nashville, um, and they just lose against Minnesota, who we're all expecting to turn it around, and we know how
Yeah.
good they are.
It was a very
Plus
grindy
that,
game, and it was on a you flip. You could flip it either
exactly,
way on that game. And
exactly.
say,
Um,
what I will say about them, I'll just jump in. Nice and rude. What I will say about them is they have the worst face-off in the whole entire league. So being at P9, I don't think it's sustainable if you keep that stat running. Um,
it's a very bad face-off percentage,
yeah, it's a
42.5.
42.5. It's very bad. They are out shooting their opponents. They are keeping their shots against below 30. which is recipe for success, and that's why they're conceding less than 3 goals a game at 2.8. And
Yep.
they got 100% special teams, so they got all the formula there besides the face-offs um, to be successful, and that's why they're grinding those games and getting those wins.
Yeah, and I think that's why they're well deserved of this top 10 spot. But yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think there's too much to say on that.
yeah, they only had 2 games, so you can't gauge too much. But I think it's the other teams around them moving. Anyway,
Exactly.
P8, position 8 for me. Moving down a few is the Dallas Stars.
Ooh.
Yes, I didn't like doing it.
Yeah, look, I moved them down, but only the one spot. I didn't want to punish them too much for um their up and down sort of week.
Yeah, I understand that. What they lose to the Jets, but they lose to the Sharks. You
Yeah.
concede 5 goals on 18 shots. That's not good enough. That is not good enough.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's probably worth mentioning Ottinger was back.
Mm,
Um, but you know, was he 100%? Where was he at? Is the question. To concede 5 on 18 shots. That's pretty shocking and very ordinary from him. It's not something we've come to expect from Dallas and Ottinger, but um, yeah. Look, I fully understand how you've moved them down to 8. Um, I just, with only playing the 2 games, I just sort of, I think their form up until this week, it's just held them in good stead for me.
yeah. Look, I understand it. They've played 14 games, 17 points. They're pretty much equal. They got 1 point more with the same games played than Philadelphia, but they're just playing way better. Um, but I had to move them down just for how the other teams played, and that's what happens when you play less amount of games.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably a couple of the teams that are below them for me. I probably you could argue that they should be above them, for sure. But I think so far up until this week, Dallas have just been that better side. So I want to see if they continue this sort of downward trend before I move them too far.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. You're number 8
but
then.
yeah, at number 8, finally climbing into the top 10 and getting their season up and running. The reigning champs, Colorado Avalanche.
Oh, would be cool. Now I got a 7.
Yeah, theirs was just a lack of games again to go any higher. I honestly think if they had played 4 games this week, they could have even pushed into the top 5 with the way they're playing. But they only had the 2 games after um, the trip to Finland.
Yeah.
They got the job done against Nashville, and they got the job done today against Carolina Hurricanes quite easily. Um, so I think it's
Yeah.
just
Well, that's why they
starting
move.
to
That's why they
come
move up for
together.
me is the Carolina game, but also
Mm,
they're in the same boat as Winnipeg with only 13 games played at 17 points.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So honestly, it's just the least amount of games played, but I like what I'm seeing. It's kind of what we expected, and I could see them coming into the top 5 sometime soon if they keep this momentum going. But
yeah.
it's
Pot-
only if they keep it
Potentially even
going.
next week.
Yeah, potentially
Yeah,
next week. I had them moving 6 spots, which is a big jump. You're a little bit smaller with 3, so yeah.
yeah.
Number.
Just a bit more reserved. Just on that as well. Cal McCarr, finally, finally, after all those goals he scored last year, he's finally on the board.
Man,
He
he's got a hangover. It's all
Yeah,
right.
he finally went and scored 2 goals. So he only had the one prior to that, in which by his standards was terrible. And he finally got a double. Maybe that's going to kickstart his goal scoring prowess. But after 28 goals last year, I wasn't expecting him to only be on 1 goal until today.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Number 6 for me then. New York Islanders.
Ooh. New York Islanders. I have the New York Islanders at number 5.
Ooh, yeah,
Yeah,
interesting. I debated between 5 and 7 for my
yeah,
5 and 7 teams. It's honestly just pick your choice. It's I don't know what to say about them. They keep producing when I feel like they shouldn't, and then they don't produce when I feel like they should. But they've been on a big run after their slow start to the season, and
yeah,
I think that's what's going to do it for them, and I think they can keep that going. So if you look at their week, Calgary 4-3 OT win, and on the back to back you get a 4-3 win over Rangers. They Rangers outplayed them. It is on a back to back, so that's an amazing win.
yeah,
The loss to Arizona was hard, but it's Arizona. They're a harder team than what people think. And then they get the OT win against the Blue Jackets, which is a bit scary, even though they outplayed them. Only going to OT against the Blue Jackets and losing to Arizona, so it's kind of
yeah,
it's kind of yeah.
yeah. It's a tough week. Like interesting week, right? Like the Calgary game, they got outshot. New York Rangers game got outshot. Then they lost to Arizona, and then today they get taken all the way to OT, and they had to come back every time. It wasn't like they were leading or anything. It was they were trailing, they tied it, they trailed, they tied, they trailed, they tied. It was a very back and forth sort of game, and then they get it done in OT. Um, but yeah, like, and today was the first time that they sort of really convincingly outshot a team and weren't convincingly outshot. Um, but again, they get 6 points out of a possible 8. Um, and yeah, they're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, one other thing I want to add on to them is they've got a below average power play at the moment at 15%. It's pretty much the only stat that I can see from them that is down. Their goal differential is amazing, but yeah, I just wanted to highlight that power play that is yet to fire.
Yeah. Yeah, I think once Matt Barzell starts actually scoring goals, which will come eventually, um, I think that power play should start coming up. But
Alrighty,
yeah,
your number
all right.
7, which would be my number 5.
Yep, have no doubt about that. I would be concerned if it wasn't. I've
Oh,
got the Winnipeg Jets.
so, uh-oh. Nah, yeah, Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, what more can you say? Like they're playing really, really well. My concern at the start of the year was their game style, how they were playing. They just didn't look good. Um, but they're really starting to pull together some wins and some big wins. Beat Dallas 5-1. Um, and yeah, look, they lost to Calgary today. But as we said, Calgary have been really pushing teams even though they went on a 7-game losing streak, they've really been taking it to teams. Um, so, that win against Dallas 5-1 does it for me. Like, Dallas, really good side so far this year, and just being able to get on top of them so well like that, I almost considered putting them at 6 ahead of Dallas because of that win. Probably the loss today against Calgary, although I don't punish them too much. But yeah, I definitely feel like they're on the way up. It's just whether they can keep it.
yeah. I'd like to say they've got probably a below average power play, but one of the things is their goals against. They are third in the league, and the teams that they are in between are Boston, Vegas, and the Devils, who have been in a league of their own. So that says something more in regards to Hellebuck, as they concede more shots than they do give. So yeah, it's
Yep.
still Hellebuck standing on his head. I really worry for them if he does get injured, but it's been good sailing so far. Five's probably 5 and 7 all interchangeable for me. They were
Yeah.
interchanging throughout the week for me, so it's just where they
Yeah.
landed. Number
Well, I mean, you
four.
look at that
Yep.
stat that you were saying just quickly.
Yep.
The goals against stat. The top 8 is the top 8 rankings.
It,
Um, Boston, Vegas, Winnipeg, New Jersey, Islanders, Dallas, Colorado. It's it just shows you when you're not conceding goals, you're generally getting wins.
It's
Um,
it's
it's
amazing how
it's
simple
it's
hockey is.
exactly right. Like it's and being New Jersey fans, one of the big reasons the Devils were so successful with their 3 cups, um, back in the mid 90s, early 2000s, was their defense. Their defense was so solid. And if you've got a good defense, it really helps your movement forward in any game, right? Like if you can control your D zone and make sure that the opposition's not getting those good looks at your net, and then obviously you can back it up with good netminders, you're going to go a long way to winning every game you're in.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
All right, top four, probably all in the same order. We could almost just rifle them off. I got the Carolina Hurricanes.
yep.
Yeah.
I
Do you
honestly
just
I
do you just
feel
want
like
to
we could.
rifle them off and just go bang bang bang?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
So Carolina, New Jersey,
Yep.
Vegas Golden Knights,
Yep. Boston.
and number one yet again, the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
I,
I'd
it's hard to argue with that top four, right? Like,
yeah. I could almost argue for Carolina being out of the top four. Um, just how good Colorado have been and those teams below. But I still think they're
yeah,
holding on to it now. It could change next week. That's all I'm saying. I think the top three are pretty much cemented at the moment. I think they're in a league of their own. You know, New Jersey's playing a fast-paced, hard game. You know, Boston's playing. They're all playing four lines as well. The thing with Devils, which will probably cost them, is that they're playing the third line, third string goalie, and the other teams have been getting good goaltending in regards to Boston and Vegas. In regards to, let's just have a look at Carolina. It's I don't know what you can say. What I will say in regards to Carolina is, let me just check the game it was. It was the Florida game. Uh, I didn't like the way they played the Florida game at all. They left their goaltender to dry way too many times, and there was just too many one-on-ones with the goalie. It was actually disgusting to watch. That's why I'm struggling to have them at four, honestly. But then they go on a back-to-back and destroy Edmonton. So it's
yeah,
maybe it's just a one-off and you give it to them. Um,
yeah. It's a hard. Like the week they had was pretty tough. I think. They come up against Toronto, who we said before has been firing. Um, they outshot Toronto, but still lost 3-1. They get shut out against Florida, even though they put up 40 shots. Then they absolutely smashed the Edmonton Oilers 7-2. But then, come up against Colorado and lose 4-1 and lost quite convincingly. Um, it's really tough. I still think they're a really good side. I think they had a tough week. It's why I say I'd still have them at number four without too much of a question. Um, if they continued that downward trend next week, and the teams like New York Islanders, Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas continue to perform well, then yep, I could see them falling out. But at the moment, I think they're a solid lock in four. I think those top three are probably in a league of their own at the moment. How long New Jersey stays there? A lot of people have said that about Boston as well. How long do Boston
I
stay there? I
I
know a
think
few
Boston
Boston
stay
fans
there.
have said it. Oh, so do I. I feel like the game they're playing is really good. I feel like New Jersey could stay there with the way they're playing. But we do
Goaltending's the
know
issue.
they're young. Well, yeah, I mean Vitek Vanacek shouldn't miss too much. They suspect he'll play next game.
Yeah,
Worst case,
but
he might miss.
you still got your 1A or your 1B down for 3 to 6 weeks. It's a long time to be relying on a third line string goalie.
It
So,
is,
and
but
I have
yeah,
like Vanacek's game. In regards to Vegas, looks like they're just firing offensively. It's just clicking. Eichel just seems to be clicking this season, and
Yeah,
it's honestly just a offensive powerhouse from what I've seen for Vegas, and they're just keeping the puck out of the net. Just getting good goaltending, and
yep,
I didn't expect that. And in regards to Boston, it's just depth, and it's honestly for all these teams, it's just depth. They're getting all lines producing, and that's what you
yeah.
need from, you know, a top five team in the league is all five lines, all four lines, sorry, producing.
Yeah, exactly. Look, the one thing I will say about Vegas, and my question mark around them, is when they come up against the real difficult teams, um, on a more regular basis, when they have like the weeks that Carolina and a few other teams have had, where they're just like Buffalo, where they're playing 4, 5, 6 of the top 10 teams back to back to back almost.
Yeah,
Because their run has been a little bit easier. I mean, their their games since the start of the season. LA Kings, Chicago, Seattle, Calgary, Winnipeg, Colorado. Winnipeg when they're on, they weren't firing yet. They had a real slow start. Um, they lost to Colorado, obviously lost to Calgary. They beat Toronto when they were, you know, not firing either. They were on that real poor losing streak. San Jose, Anaheim, we know where they're at. Winnipeg, they beat when they were finally sort of together. Washington, when they were and still are quite injury plagued. Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto again, Buffalo, St. Louis. There's no like, I'd look at those teams and other than Winnipeg, Colorado, they're probably the only two real good teams they've played against, and the others they probably got when they weren't at their best. Like you look at
yeah,
when they first played Winnipeg, 5-2, weren't at their best. They played Seattle start of the season before they went on their run. Toronto when they were on their downward trend. They beat Toronto again this week, which was good, but it was very tight, and Toronto were probably unlucky not to get the points there. So, and they've still got a really easy run even going into next week. San Jose, Arizona, Edmonton's a bit more difficult, but then they go Vancouver, Ottawa, Seattle, Vancouver, Columbus Blue Jackets. Like, there's a lot of bottom end teams in their schedule. Um, but then next month in December, they've got Boston, New York Rangers, Philly, Boston, Winnipeg, Chicago, New York Islanders. So, they've got five really good teams in 2 week period. They win those games, and I'll be like, yeah, 100%. These guys could be cup contenders. I still have them as cup contenders at the moment, but that's probably the test that I need them to pass.
yeah. No, fair enough. I think that pretty much finalizes everything. L32 pretty much similar but a little bit of differential in regards to the midfield. As expected, just because of how close it is at the moment, it would probably still take a week or two to finalize where some of those teams are, especially the inconsistent ones. But yeah,
Yeah,
if you want to sign us out, that'd be good.
yeah, awesome. I actually expected there to be a lot more um, differences this week, to be honest. There were a few, but I was expecting some real crackers to be like, oh, how could you make that call? So we've been on the same page yet again, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, thanks everyone for watching. We really appreciate your viewership. And if you like the video, give us a big thumbs up. And if you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and put your rankings down in the comments. We'd love to have a bit of a debate and see where you think we're going wrong or what you think we get right. And yeah, bit of back and forth, bit of banter is always fun too. So let us know what you think.
All right. Cheers. All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Catch ya.